I'm late, Bobsy. I'm always late. Sorry to keep you waiting. Sorry to keep you dope strokers waiting. We're all over the map. It is Monday morning in California. My man, Chris Ryan, was over in the States last week. He's popped back again. Most of the Rocket Yard team of our fearless leader, Daryl Evans, were over here too. So everyone's transatlantic. And the time that we should all be rocking and rolling, I'm the one who's late, which is pretty normal. But welcome to the Dope Stroke podcast show this morning, Chris.
Hello, mate. How are you? Just for a bit of context, it's 8 minutes late. 8 minutes isn't too bad considering it's early doors your end. You've been on the call for about 3 or 4 minutes, but you've been sorting coffee out, blinds, a few expletives, the mic, the camera. But we're all good now. We're good to go. I am good, mate. I'm back in the UK. It was a good trip last week. Lots done. Busy few days. Saw lots of people, and sort of over the jet lag. I thought I was over the jet lag on Saturday night because I got to bed at a normal time. Fast asleep, felt all good. And then last night I was wide awake until gone 3 a.m. So I don't know where I am now, but hopefully all back to normal tonight.
Yeah, it's a lot. Transatlantic travel is a lot. There's a lot going on. One of the things I've learned, just touching on time and keeping going, having lived all over the world, is that being late is defined as different things depending on which continent you're in. And 8 minutes in the United States is absolutely late. United States guys love being early. So apologies there on that to you, mate. So a lot to unpack, a lot to cover. And I mean, since we last spoke, LA won the TGL. That was happening when we were filming in full swing last week. But, you know, I mean, you can unpack the news and the information. Obviously, Tiger's accident, which we can get to, it's going to be an interesting one for everyone to unpack over the coming weeks. You've got the Fitzpatrick boys winning, which is no mean feat. I mean, Delhi Golf Club, ridiculous. But the one I want to lead with is 41-year-old Gary Woodland getting that victory on the PGA Tour. I loosely know Gary. He was, when I was on tour every week, he is such a good bloke that he had like his group of guys from every company that he'd worked with. And everyone around him loves him. Same caddy all the time, who's a big character as well. And just an out-and-out great guy. So I didn't get super close to him because there were other players that were that level that obviously I'd traveled around with from Europe a little bit and was closer. So he just had his group that he worked with. So I didn't do much work with him. But man almighty, he can absolutely cannon it. I mean, I think his easy fairway find is a 305 and the rest of them are just pounding out there. But the story, for those who don't know it, with the issues he's had with his health, brain tumor, recovered from that. He's got a young family. And to come and get this victory is just so inspiring. And as much as the week has brought, well, it's brought great news, realistically. But obviously, there is something we're going to touch on that is a concern massively. But at the end of the day, this is an amazing story. And it shows you how great the sport is.
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that our sport seems to deliver these stories and these headlines, sometimes for good, sometimes for bad. But when you get one like this, it's really good to watch. And I can't imagine there would have been anyone out there who's a real golf fan who wouldn't have been rooting for him. As you say, a long time away from the game with a brain operation, serious brain operation. And then, that's one thing that you've got to get past. And neither of us can really put ourselves in that situation, know what that's like. But I think what's really interesting is that, and I'm not sure when it was, but he did an interview with, I think, Rex, is it Hoggard or something, from one of the channels in the US. Mm-hmm. And this wasn't an interview like post-round, pre-round, practice round. This was an interview that Gary Woodland had organised. He'd reached out to this person for an interview. And he basically just laid everything on the line, and he just sat there and he just said, look, I'm not good. I'm not okay. And he ran through a few scenarios of him on the golf course, and he was basically having PTSD. He was really, really struggling. And he spoke about a story where there was some media inside the ropes and some camera people, and it was like Friday afternoon, second round, and they were walking a little bit too close to him. And he just lost it. He just turned to his caddy. He said, I can't do this. I'm struggling.
That was this week, right?
This week? No, this was previous.
Because you won't have seen it yet, because he touched on it this week. And he listed the victory this week about how one of the security guards just basically got him down those last 7 or 8 holes. Without him, he wouldn't have won this thing.
Well, this was a few weeks back when he had to he pulled out of the event because he
Jeez.
couldn't deal with it. So you've got one side from the outside in, non-golf fans are going to go, yeah, Gary Woodland brain tumor operation, that's pretty serious. But when you dig a bit deeper, and when you look under the hood of what's going on, it runs a lot deeper. And when I saw that interview, I actually rewatched it yesterday. I don't think he's out of the woods yet. I mean, this is an incredible victory. It'll do wonders for him, and all the support is going to be incredible. But this is a journey he's on. This is a road to recovery that he's just embarked on, really. And it's just great to see him win. It really was. It was heartwarming. It was great to see. It shows how many fans he's got around the world. But it's still going to be a long road back to a full recovery for him. But yeah, what an absolute baller! Great golf swing. I imagine he's quite spinny. Ball flight.
Yeah.
It's got to be quite spinny, hasn't he?
Again, limited how much I've done with him, but yeah, if you hit it low in the blade with that thing, then it's going to be spinning for sure. Spinny, what Chris means is ball flight can get a bit spinny because the guy's got so much speed. So if you move away from the center, then yeah, you can get spin. Yeah. One of the things that I picked up that I think you'd like, and again, I don't know if the social media channels that I follow are different. Well, hey, my algorithm's different to yours. We absolutely know that. But
let's not get into our algorithms.
Randy Smith came up, and obviously he's the coach who coaches Scotty Scheffler, and he popped up on mine some praise that Woodland had given him, and literally just said, like, when he came back from the brain surgery, Randy was like, you got to get back in the ring. You've got to stop guiding it. And you've got to start playing fully committed to what you do. You're playing guided golf. You got to suck it up. You got to play real Gary Woodland golf and pound that thing as hard as you do and be aggressive at your targets. Again, Tigerism, be aggressive to your targets. We've heard it through Decade Golf too. And play the way the game's intended to be played for you rather than backing off, guiding, and just you'll never get back to where you are playing this guided golf. So two things from that. One, I think it's a massive thing for all of us. Like I stand up now on some tee shots and just hope, which is never going to get it done. And if you're free and you let it go, even with some blemishes in your golf swing, I think it really works. Me and my golf boys put something out with Adam Scott, and he said how he thinks he covers most of his issues in his golf swing. By the way, there's not very many, but can be covered with rhythm and timing. And I've been playing a bit like that these last few weeks. This is all levels, folks. But I think it's important when it comes to letting it go and playing, if you can let your subconscious just go. But the main point of the question that I wanted to hit on you on is it just shows how great Randy Smith is. I mean, here's a fella that, he's done it all. He's still out there doing it. And he just he's picking off the best players in the world and different golf swings from Scotty to Woodland. Body types are different, attitudes are different, and just knows how to speak to these guys. I think that in of itself is another fantastic story that people may not touch on.
Yeah, you got some great coaches that have been around, the tour for a number of years, and when you speak to, I guess, most amateurs and you talk to them about what is a great coach, they're going to dive into swing stuff. Understands impact, understands different models and different methods and what changes need to be made. But when you get to that level, sometimes it can just be about the thing that you say to the player on the practice range, an hour before they tee off, or it can be the thing that you send them on a text the night before. It's a lot more about understanding the player and what you need to say to that player. Yeah, it's obviously the swing stuff as well, and you've got to be educated and you've got to be, well-versed in swing stuff. But, sometimes it just needs the right thing to be said at the right time from someone that you trust. And he is obviously someone that he would trust. I think, as you were saying then about he's got to let it go. I mean, Gary Woodland's a major champion, right? We know he's got game, but there's got to be, when you've had that operation, when you've had a brain tumor, you've had a serious operation, you've been away from the game, there has to be some doubt to say, am I ever going to get back to the level that I was? Because there's numerous examples of golfers who have, hit the heights, won majors, and then kind of lost their game and never come back. So, there would have been some doubt. He would have needed people like Randy Smith, who he trusts, to give him that little bit of confidence. And then, like you say, you at some point, you can have all the best advice in the world, but at some point you've got to go on the course and you've got to, as you say, let it go. And you're never going to win a tournament. You're never going to get back to that level if you are guiding it, if you are worrying about the outcomes. You've just got to, at some point, stand up there, hit the golf shots. And he has showed some good results over the last few weeks. So his game's been trending. And then, to be able to get it done, because he won convincingly as well. I think he bogeyed the last, but I mean, he had a 4-shot lead go at the last. So he was pretty much cruising, even though he's being pushed a little bit by Hogarth, I think.
Let me ask you this as a golf coach. So people out here might be listening to this going, oh, I'm seeing a teacher working on my swing. What's the percentage of the students that you get to teach that you get to the stage where Randy Smith is at in the relationship, where the conversation goes beyond, listen, you know, you need to be, your path is 5 to the left. You need to neutralize that, or your face gets here. We've got to work on this arm fold and the downswing, or whatever it may be. How many students have you got to the point where it's a conversation about manage your miss, manage your state when you play each shot, read into like pins are left, you're not great at that. You're really getting into the bit where Randy's at, where you can almost sit there and say to him, right, you've got a 3-day tournament coming up. You're a great amateur. Let's manage your state rather than your game. Because the game is about, the game at this top level, I think, is 80 to 90% managing the state of the player rather than the technique that they bring.
Yeah, we've touched on that before, how we think it's a lot to do with the 6 inch between your ears. I would say if I look at my teaching going back 10 years, it was a lot more of that. I had a stable of players, probably 70-80% of my clients were long-term clients. And you obviously got the swing stuff you're working on, but then you do start to touch on, look, how are you actually going to go and play this game? Let's get you away from, thinking swing to playing golf. You start to touch a little bit more on, strategy, game management, trying to get them to identify their own patterns, their own ball flight issues, so they can start to self-regulate and start to coach themselves. Probably in the last 10 years, the way I coach has changed a little bit. Not the way I coach, but the people I coach. It tends to be a little bit more one-off lessons, corporate golf days, golf holidays, and you've got a shorter period of time. So my job there is to make them better in a relatively short space of time. So that coaching is very much on impact and ball flight. But I do find myself speaking to golfers a lot more about what I consider to be the important things, such as, how are you going to practice this when you go away? Because it's all well and good understanding that, yeah, the slice is happening because my wrist is in this position and that's causing the shaft to be steep. But it's more about how do I actually take that information? How do I ensure that my practice is structured well enough? And I think one of the big takes I would say from my coaching over the years is that you can give golfers the right information and they can understand that and not get any better if you don't cover the how to practice. What types of drills you should be doing? Should there be dry drills that you do at home? Should there be drills with a golf ball? Should they be drills with feedback? How many balls should I hit? Should I be doing irons? Should I be doing blocks? Should I be doing random practice? Should I be changing my target? Should it be skill based? Should it be technique based? All of these questions need to be considered when you're looking at making a swing change. It's not just as simple. Like the amount of golfers I've spoken to who you'll say something like, oh, your wrist cupped at the top and you get it a little steep. And they're like, oh, okay. And you can tell that in their mind, they're thinking, I can change this in the next swing. And you're like, no, you can't. So you have to lay out that whole journey of getting from A to B. So I think when you're working with long-term students, absolutely, you talk strategy. My clients tend to be now shorter-term clients, which means it's all about impact and ball flight. But I do think you have to consider practice, how to make a change, what to expect, and what you need to do in practice.
What about if a great player comes to you? Like, as in US amateur player, and you're only going to see him for a short period of time?
I would say that's very difficult. Very difficult, because when you're looking at a golfer of that level, we speak about it a lot, but we're both very much a case of into our stats. I'd want to know his stats. I want to know his driving performance, his iron performance, his wedge performance. I want to know all of the information, because you might look at his golf swing and he might have these quirky little moves that don't look quote unquote normal, but he might be absolutely knocking out of the park from tee to green, and it's his chipping and pitching that isn't good. So you can't look at a golf swing and just assume that you can make an improvement there. So I would want all information. I'd want to be looking at the golf swing with data from Full Swing Kit, knowing what this player's tendencies are. So, for example, is their strokes gained with the driver slightly less than it should be? Because I'm looking then at a golf swing for something. And I think one of the biggest things that I see from good coaches is you're looking for something. So rather than just you take a video of your golf swing in slow motion from down the line, you look at it, and golfers are looking for faults. Whereas I think what good coaches are doing, they're looking for solutions rather than looking for faults. So if this player comes to me, let's say we identified that their driving or their performance from the tee isn't quite as good as it could be. When I look at the data from full swing and I look at the swing in slow motion, I'm looking for a solution to the problem of them not being as good off the tee as they could be. I'm not just looking for faults or that does not right, that does not right. I'm looking at what movements are they making, which is leading to their performance off the tee being, under par or less than it could be. And then you are literally targeting those movements and those movement patterns, which will help them with that. And what becomes really difficult, there's a great story I heard about Brooks Koepka, that he got introduced to James Rudyard. I think you know James Rudyard. And
short game coach, for those who don't. Coach in South England. Got a lovely facility now that I see on social media. Yeah. Good though, really smart guy, obvious. Actually good content to watch. Don't know his handle, sorry, but search James Rudyard. Works with Justin Rose at the moment. That's probably the highest profile player he's got. But a lot of great information and really nice guy in person. Carry on, mate.
Yeah.
I'll fill in the details for the people, don't worry, mate.
So this was a few years ago, and this was I think I was on a seminar with James. He told this story. So Brooks was working with Claude at the time, Claude Harmon, Butch's son, and he was struggling a little bit with the kind of.
Do you see how you adjusted there? You were like Claude Harmon, Butch's son. So now you're getting it was not just you and me having a chat. I appreciate that. Carry on, mate.
So he was struggling a little bit from sort of 30 to 70 yards. I'm not exactly sure the yardage. So he kind of went to James, and they spent a bit of time together. And for anyone who can't picture Brooks's swing, it's a little bit unique that he takes the club a little bit hooded on the way back, a little bit closed. Club is outside the hands considerably. He gets it pretty steep in the shaft early on, but then he shallows it in the latter part of the backswing and into the downswing. So James kind of looked at him and said, well, I think the reason he's struggling from this distance is because he's making a kind of half swing. So when he finishes his backswing, this thing is pretty shut and this shaft is pretty steep. So that he identified that as the problem. But the point I'm getting to is that James and Claude then had a conversation, and James says something on the lines of, I think we can probably improve this part of his game by getting him to change the takeaway, by getting to get a little bit more loft on the face and get the shaft angle a bit shallower. But their concern was that would then bleed into his full swing. And at the time, he was just crushing it from tee to green. He was one of the best in the world. And so they actually decided to just keep the technique as it is and just work a little bit on developing skill. And I thought it was a really interesting conversation because when you're looking at elite players, and we're getting back to the point that you made about elite players, it's when you're dealing with someone's career, their livelihood, their goals that they might have had since they were 6 or 7, you have to consider everything. You can't look at a goal swing and just say, I'm going to change that because it'll help with the driver. You have to consider, will this negatively impact the irons? Will it negatively impact the wedges? And you have to build and factor all of this in. That's a conversation with the player. It's a conversation with their fitness expert. It's a conversation with their short game coach if they've got one. And you have to get this whole picture before you can make an educated and informed decision on how you take things forward with that player.
I think golf's unbelievable. I think that's why it's a puzzle that we all want to solve, is because there's so many of these different buckets of the game. Go in there on the Brooks story, you've gone granular into 30 to 70 yards, which I think is the number you said. I read a book last couple of weeks. Someone recommended it to me, James Siegman, who's a coach out in the Midwest, little bit older now, but short game guy. This book was from 2014. I think he'd been at TPI, Titleist Performance Institute, and he had studied with Dr. Greg Rose, who's the guy behind TPI, great fella, about the finesse swing versus the power swing and the sequencing of the downswing, and having the best pitchers and chippers in the world have the head pretty much starting the sequence, the head of the golf club starting the sequence in the downswing. And I guess it's why a lot of people got into chipping one-handed, and the way of feeling the right hand and this club change direction and enabling the wedge to start the downswing for you, which changes like the chain. I guess it's the kinesthetic chain. I don't want to go there with that in case that's wrong. But the motion at which you add the torque and the power changes the sequencing. The best pitchers in the world have a completely different sequence to what the best long games do. He found that out himself and then proved it with TPI and force plates and stuff like that. But he also gets to, which is the point in the book I've actually put down now, which is so poignant that you bring it up, but how to practice this stuff. Like, you've now had 7 chapters of technique, which me being me, I'm like, right, got it dialed. And I'm hitting some absolute perler pitch shots now, lad. You'd be freaking loving it. And then you're like, hang on a minute, he's got a whole section here on how to practice this. But obviously, if Funk de la Skunk was here, he'd be like, well, I keep being here. But it, mate, he ain't got the swordsman. He ain't got the toolbox. And
Off
I've
the
gone on this
clock.
pitch and chipping journey, and there's just so many ways to deliver the club. The game has got so many layers. It's unbelievable. And then it's like you sit there, and I was with this another sport, really successful sportsman in another sport who's got 3 kids. 2 of them are in academies for the sport he played as a pro. I sit there, listen to us talk about data, and then I think about the Fitzpatrick family, and you've got one guy who's gone out and worked his tail off. I mean, data-driven himself to a major, got off to a tricky Ryder Cup start, now become a key part of that, is in such the prime of his career, changed his game, works for Mark Blackburn, who's another great, successful coach, lives here in the States. But his brother, who's followed that same trend, and 2 completely different personalities, and just gone and won at one of the toughest golf courses on the European Tour out there in Delhi, DLF. The place is difficult. But 2 completely different personalities. But it shows you that there could well be a blueprint as to how you get this done.
How many years younger is he? Do you know?
I'll have to
He's
Google
quite
it.
a bit. Because I know that when he came on my radar, he was playing maybe through a sponsor's invite on the DP World Tour, but didn't have his card. And I don't know how true this is. Sometimes it's just headlines, but there was a few reports back then that Alex was potentially better than Matt. I mean, if he's better than Matt, that's crazy good.
But 4 years difference in age.
Yeah, so Matt's probably, I think 4 years ago, Matt had probably already won on the DP World Tour, probably done a little bit more. So in terms of if you put them age by age, Matt's probably a little bit ahead. But I mean, everyone develops at a different rate. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that, if Matt's done things as a junior and he's got through to the level that he's at, then it wouldn't surprise me that if his brothers follow that same, as you say, blueprint, then he's going to do the same. Talking a short game, and, we can move this on in a minute, but what I would say, and I'm putting words in your mouth, but I'm guessing you're going to be in the same boat as me. You said there that there's so many different ways to hit a wedge shot. I mean, if someone rocks up to me in the short game area and I say, hey, can I ask you a question about short game? I'm like, yeah. Should the shaft be lent forwards or should it be lent back? Should the face be open or should it be square? Should it be stood close or should it be further away? Should the ball be forward or should it be back? The answer is
all of them.
Yes. The answer is yes to all those. It depends on the situation. And I find what I would have done as a kid, and I'm guessing what you would have done, is you get curious as a junior golfer. You take a wedge and you get the chipping green and you just say to yourself, well, I wonder what happens if I stick the ball forward and open the face. I wonder what happens if I stick the ball back and then close the face. I wonder what happens if I stand closer. I wonder what happens if I do this. I wonder what happens if I do that. And by basically experimenting and developing skill, you learn all these different types of shots. You learn how to deliver the club differently. You learn how to get the ball to come out of different flights. You learn how to put different amounts of spin on it. And you learn all those shots through skill and by just having fun, so that when you are on the golf course and you've got that shot, you see the shot and you execute it. And I think when you come to the game a little bit later, and a lot of the people I coach now didn't take the game up to, 30 or 35. They've had a family, kids, they've played all the good sports, can't do those anymore, so they come to golf. And they kind of want to be like, okay, teach me how to hit a chip and a pitch. And I'm like, I can do, but that's not the best way. The best way is to be a kid, is to go on the short game area. And yeah, I can give you some guidance and, point in the right direction. But I want people to go and see the wedge as a tool and just use it in as many different ways as you can and just figure out what happens. Then if you layer on some tuition on top of that, some guidance from someone who knows what they're on about, that's a really good recipe. But thinking you can just get taught how to pitch in one method and that's going to serve you right through to get down to a single figure level, I just don't think that's accurate. That's not what the best players do.
It's funny because it came up on my mind earlier and the podcast moved on and I didn't go there, but I'm going to go there now because it's come up again. So Martin Chuck in Arizona, that you've heard me talk about before, he's a golf coach, Canadian bloke, lives down in Arizona. I went to see him early on in this YouTube journey and he gave me a golf lesson and it was all about how you manage your state and how you hit a golf shot. He knew it was going to be a one lesson, might not see me on his practice tee again. And didn't really touch on, put a TrackMan down. Path was inside and talked a bit about Path and then talked about me and state. And I've been following him online socially and I see it as golf schools. He gets these older guys coming to him and he runs he calls it the Olympics or something. He makes it gamified and he'll make players chip it through the sun canopy, round the training aids, through the
Love that.
bunker. And he's like, they're looking there and they're amateurs. And like, well, how do I do it? And he's like, you guys got to figure this out. I'm going to help you in a bit, but I want to see. And then he hit one the other day online. He sculled it through a chair. And everyone's like, and he said, look at where it's gone. It's gone to 5 feet. Like, I sculled it through the chair, through the track, ran up the lip, hopped on the green. It was a deliberate, like, bladed lob wedge, but he sort of was trying to make the point. And I love the coaches that do this when they make the point without saying it. It's like, the game is the game. It's you have, and to be fair to Funk de la Skunk, he wins that chipping comp the other day by fatting it onto the path and it bouncing twice. But the game's the game. You know what I mean? The problem is people like myself get caught up in the purity of it. But sometimes you can play with players, and it happened to me recently, and they don't deliver like the right loft or the dynamic loft at impact, and the ball flight is not premium, but they're still great players. They do the same thing over and over. They might not be tour pros and they're not reaching their full potential, but maybe they don't have the ability to reach their full potential. But what they do is really good. But I do think it's evident, and you know, don't you, instantly when you play with a player and they've played before, even if I play with a lot of guys who were mini tour players back in the day, and then they don't play for years and they come back and they might be a bit scabby, but you can still tell when you play with someone who's a player, a real player. There's just certain areas and the way they look at shots. And I think people listening to this need to play with the best player that's available to them. And then you need to just look at golf shots and the way they look at it. So getting back on to Fitzy and his younger brother, I mean, Alex has got Matt. He's then married, I'm going to do the surname wrong here, but Rachel Kuhn, I think it is, or Kwan. Who is a American highly ranked amateur golfer. I met her during the NCAAs. Hell of a player. Her mother was a tour pro, I believe. But Rachel was so level-headed when I met her. Such a great golfing IQ. Around Alex all the time. Alex is pretty level-headed too. Then he's got Fitzy, who is pushing the boundaries of what's not for his skill level because he's doing it his way, but what his learning, like the learning and the way Fitz goes about it is phenomenal. Justin Thomas talks about it all the time. And you've then got these 3 kids, young people, in Rachel, Matt, and Alex, who are pushing each other to practice. And all of a sudden, that's what creates the environment. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you have guys at the golf club and you see them, you got to practice with better players. Like all these juniors, all these college kids, they all practice together. And that leads you, when you think you're not getting the most out of it, to hitting these daft golf shots around a chipping green, the Martin Chuck style. But that's how you improve. That is how you improve.
I mean, you say play with better players, and that's advice that gets the people throw that advice out there, that's play with better players. And it is good advice. But I think there's another level to that, because I'm pretty sure as a 14-year-old kid, if you got the chance to play with an 18-year-old England player at the time who was better than you would have observed, but you'd have asked them a ton of questions as well. You know, provided that they're okay with that and it wasn't competitive. So just playing with better players is one thing, but I wouldn't tell people that, you know, play with good players and it's just going to rub off on you. It doesn't work that way. You know, you're not going to be hounding them all round. But if they hit a shot, if it's a low spinning pitch off a tough lie, ask them, you know, what did you do? How did you hit that shot? Get inquisitive, because they're quite happy to share. Most golfers, look, this industry is great. I think I've not really met that many people in this industry who I wouldn't kind of be able to call a friend. And I think this industry is great. And I think when you play with better players, just get inquisitive. Ask them questions, learn about what they're doing, because that way you're going to speed up your process. So 100% agree with that.
So again, culturally, there's 2 things. Like what the UK do, if you join a golf course in the UK and you're a junior, at least it was when we were kids, 90% of the clubs, and I'd say 95, in England, you have to play in a medal in order for it to impact your handicap. I don't know now if you can go out on a Wednesday and just have a knock with your buddy and put it in for your handicap. Maybe you can. I don't know. But to play in the medals, you had to play with a senior member, and senior member was 18 years or older. So one of my best mates as a kid was a fella that was 10 years older than me, because he was a great golfer. Learned a ton off him, good and bad habits, but it was awesome. And then I'd play with, you know, older blokes who were decent players. You learned how to manage yourself on a golf course and your personality, and that was fantastic. And then in America, I think because there's so many you share a lot of golf carts with people, And you look like you're about to take the piss out of me there. I'll let you go because this next piece could lead to other questions. Go on, what were you going to say?
I'm not going to take the piss out of you. I've just got a little story which made me chuckle. That was all. So I joined my first golf course when I was probably, I don't know, 13, 14. And I wasn't very good. I didn't have a handicap. I mean, I had a really rough set of clubs. And a junior member, good friend of yours, good friend of mine, was Kevin Hale.
Oh yeah.
And at the time, Kev was already playing off like fourth. I think Kev was a year older than me, but he'd been there for a long time. Good player. I think he was already playing for the county. I remember going into the pro shop and like this young kind of junior, didn't know anybody, a little bit nervous. And Les, the pro, introduced me to Kev. And he was like, oh, Kev, here's a junior member. Kev plays off four. So straight away, I'm like, this is my hero. He plays off four. And Les had said to Kev, take Chris out on the course and teach him some things. So we arranged to play golf, and I remember going to the course and thinking, this is going to be amazing. Like my handicap's probably 28 or something at the time. This kid's a 4. I'm going to learn so much. So we played a few holes. Kev, back then, not the most confident of people, so he's barely said a thing to me for the first 4 or 5 holes. And then we get to the 8th hole. He comes up to me, he goes, got some advice for you. So I'm like, here we go. This is what we're waiting for. This is the stuff that's going to get me down to the 4 handicap. And he goes, when you're on the course, when you're at a tee shot, wherever it goes, doesn't matter if it's a lost ball, out of bounds, in the rough or anywhere, when it's in the air, pick your tee up, because anyone else on the golf course watching will think you've hit a good one.
That's good advice.
That was it. That's all I got off him in 18 holes. So
a buddy of mine, you laugh, a buddy of mine, legend of a bloke, plays on the Champions Tour. He doesn't, he's retired now. But he got asked to give some advice to a person that was an athlete from another sport, and they could clearly play. And his advice, he watched this person tee the ball up, and they put the tee in the ground and pushed it down with their finger. He watched, and obviously they're a good athlete, so they hit a good golf shot. They're going to be a great golfer, and they've got mentality to win. And it just depends on how much time, doesn't it, you have? And his advice, he just went up to this person and he just said, listen, let me show you something. And he put the ball in his palm and he put the tee in his fingers. And he goes, it's a lot easier to tee it up if you push the tee down with the ball. Obviously, that person's laughing. He goes, the other thing is, people will know you're a golfer if you do that. Yeah. That was his bit of advice. Flipping phenomenal. Okay. Phenomenal. I'm trying to get back to the story I was wanted to tell you because it's 40 years since Nicholas won the Masters, I believe. Yes, it's 40 years. 86. And I shouldn't maybe say this, but there's a product coming out. I'll be careful because I don't know if it's announced. A product coming out to commemorate that from a company. Brilliant. And I played golf with a friend of mine is the designer of this original product. So he's an older man. He's 73. He shoots his age all the time. And I got to play golf with him at the weekend. And neither of us played particularly well, but what a privilege to cart share with this. I drove him around basically, and I wanted to. And you are able to, and I'm still doing it now. And this is the advice I want to give to people in the States that get to play golf with the other guy. I mean, this guy's 30 odd years, 40 years older than me, better player than me, without doubt. You know, on the day, don't get me wrong, the scores are the scores. But I'm telling you, the man is 73 years old and he is one of the best golfers I have played with in the last 5 years, for sure. His name's Clay Long. A lot of people out here, if they're listening, know who he is. He's famous around here, for sure. Great golf industry bloke, very talented man. But it's the mentality of the guy. Like we played early in the morning. So, you know, he's 73, he's stiff. So he's clubbing up on certain shots early because he knows. He hits a tee shot down the first par 5, and I won't go hole by hole, but he's like, right, you know, get this down the left because then it's flat. And he hung it up on the right in the rough, and he was a little annoyed at himself. And then he poked a 5 wood out, laying up. I'm laying up like driver 7-iron wedge. He's like driver 5 wood, 4-iron on the green or 5-iron on the green. He's just like, right, just 2-putt par, move on, get the body going. And just the motivation, it was just so inspirational. And then I was wayward at times, and he'd come up to me and he'd be like, just make par from here. I challenge you to make par. Get creative. Like I hit one so far in the back 9 into the crap, and I punched out a 6-iron, and I ended up making par actually. And it was really good. He was motivated me to do it. But he threw a ball down. He said, hit driver. Just hit driver from here. And I was looking at it going, I guess you could. I've got like 235 front edge. You know, off the deck, driver's going to cut. And he kept throwing balls down, going, keep having a go, keep having a go. Just the desire to help people. He kept hitting putts after the hole was finished. If he'd miss a putt low, he'd reread it, go again. Beautiful putting stroke, just all flow. And had such a great way of... So the one question I asked him on the 9th, and I think this is important to everyone, especially this day and age, because you've got a full swing kit that can help you game. You've got all this data that can help you game. He was playing high-level amateur stuff years ago. And I said to him, like, how much time did you spend back on videotape then versus... And he said, well, every spring I'd get the videotape out and I'd try and improve something. And he said, and by the season starting, I realized that I couldn't go and play with what I was trying to work on. Even though the videotape, it looked a bit better, to hit a cut into the fairway, I need to do X. And he's like, I wish I could do his accent. He's got this southern accent. He's like, nah, sure as goddamn, I couldn't hit the ball there. And I would do what I would do to do that because I had to beat these guys. And it was just so... Sometimes it's so refreshing to hear that the ball doesn't lie. And you've got to hit. He kept saying, you got to dance with the girl you brought. You got to dance with the girl you brought. And I was like, Clay, I'm a swordsman. I always brought the best looking girl I could bring, mate. And he's like, you've hit it here. You've got to dance with this girl you brought. And it obviously all had good sentiment to it. But what a mindset. And then asked him about shot shaping because he was hitting 4 irons from like 170, 180. And he was cutting a lot of 4 irons. And I'm like, you're cutting them. Why are you doing that? And he's like, well, I want spin on it so I can hold the green. And you just sat there thinking, Christ, he ain't got the ball speed to get the spin on the 4 iron. He's old school. He doesn't want to put in like a 9 wood. He wants to spin out this thing. It was just a masterclass in how to manage your state and have fun with the game and be a great playing partner. Just so many different lessons. And that it was amazing. It was truly amazing. Which I guess, is there a pivot point on that? How we can get to maybe the biggest story in golf this week? Maybe not. But, if you did get to play with the Messiah that was Tiger Woods and be around him, which I've been fortunate to do, like it's hard to extract sometimes information from Tiger, but you get to play with guys like Clay. And and I like coaches like that. They lead you to the answer, but they sometimes don't give it you, like a Martin Chuck, a Clay Long. They'll lead you to the answers. Great players will lead you there, but they might not give it you because they know there's more than one way to do it. And hopefully the listeners will keep up with that because it's quite an informative podcast. But I think your point you made earlier about ball back, ball forward, handle low, closer to the ball, there isn't one cookie cutter way to play golf. And that's why in the fitting world and the teaching world, we are where we are. Randy Smith has got Scotty Scheffler's feet moving all over the place, and then he's got absolute powerhouse in Gary Woodland physically winning on the PGA Tour. What is the secret sauce? And then on the flip side, you've got Matt Fitzpatrick, who will have been extremely data-driven around Rachel, who is a great player, around Matt, who's a great player, and a winner. These guys are so good, and they're both so professional, the Fitzpatrick boys, in their interviews. That's just a credit to the parents. So it's a collective group that brings this, helps your golf game. It's not a one-size-fits-all type deal,
Yeah, 100%. The sentiment that you can just make a golf swing change and then you're off and running and you can go shoot whatever you want, it's just not true. You've got to do it, as you say. Just, you kind of pivoted there to Tiger, and we will get into that because I think we do need to cover that. It's going to be a tricky one because, all the information isn't out there yet. But he was someone who very much played with the golf ball. He would move it different ways. He would shape it high-low. But I know that, and I want you to touch on a little bit because I think it's interesting for me to listen to, but also the listeners. You've done stuff with him up close and personal, and am I right in saying that in terms of golf clubs, he is as knowledgeable as anyone in terms of what he's using, why he's using it, the stuff that he's got in his bag, why it's there, what it's doing for him?
I think for him, he's as acute as anyone. He's very sensitive to his equipment. There are some non-negotiables that over time he's slightly changed on, but he likes a driver to sit the way it sits. The 3-wood has a job. The long irons now have gone a little bit more upright so that he doesn't lose them right. Sometimes the driving iron goes in, but the wedges he's strong on, like, they don't change. The putter doesn't change, albeit that we got one in at one point that was different. But the philosophy and the mentality behind how he uses those golf clubs doesn't change. And I think that people look at the Tiger set and they don't see it. The short irons are huge. The pitching wedge is huge. The 9 and the 8 are big. And it's only when you get up in
head size.
Yeah. It's only when you get into 3s and 4s. He doesn't play the 3 anymore. The 3 and the 4 are tiny, really small. He has a different groove configuration to anyone else. He's sensitive on where the CG is. So you piece it together. Jason Day was very sensitive on where the center of gravity in irons were. The flow through the set of the head sizes, Tom Watson was very sensitive to that. The groove that, like, Rory likes the groove, the top line. Rory says similar things to what Tiger says, but Tiger picks up points from all these great players and seems to notice them all. Hideki says similar things to Tiger about paint lines and fairway woods and how they sit, and driver, and seeing loft versus not seeing loft. Obviously, his tee height is quite famous. He tees it very low because that's the way he hits a certain golf shot. And the movements on the putter that we would do were always like quarters of degrees. It wasn't big movements that you might expect. Very, very sensitive. The re-gripping had to be done a certain way. And then he got casual about that at one point in his career. When movable hosels came in, loft sleeves, you obviously can fire a grip on and then move it. He was quite sensitive. As long as it was a round grip, the core didn't have a rib in it, he was pretty sensitive. He was pretty cool with it. Like, just bang it on. And I need my face angle more than I need my rib to be in a certain position, because he wasn't using ribs. He was always using rounds, which is, they sort of weren't really a thing when he started. He obviously had the golf pride on the underside of the grip. Most guys, when he got going, were on ribs, reminders where your grip, your hands go, which, guess what? In these multi-compounder lines now that Justin Thomas is using with the big, strong, prominent rib down the back, which is now an external feature in red on the grip, it's all just going, what goes around comes around. It's like those flipping flares that you've got from that nightclub in Birmingham. They'll be coming back around again soon, kid. Pop them back on, you know what I mean?
Do you know what? Golf fashion it's a changing. There's definitely some. I see Tommy's teased something on socials. He hasn't announced it yet, but yes, definitely some.
But that was always going to happen. I mean, that's been a marketing genius the way he's played this.
Yeah, no, you're right. It'd be interesting to see what that is. Whether it's someone he's partnered up with, collabed with, or he's doing his own thing. So I guess I'll
ask you this before we get there. Shorts length. What is an acceptable above the knee length of short these days? Because that seems to move with the times. And someone took the piss out of me the other day for having shorts that were too long. I'm like, what are you talking about?
They're all measured in inches now, and I think seven's a good length.
So what happens if you've not got the longest of legs like myself? Then you
can go fives. You get fives and they'll look like sevens. Or get them tailored. You can get them tailored. I used to do that.
I'm going to have to go fives. I'm going tailored fives. I'm going to take her to my girl at the top of the hill and be like, "Listen, sweet pea, we got to fix this."
You can get them tailored. Right, we got to touch it. It's a touchy one. It's a difficult one for me. I've thought about it a little bit, and I don't think all the information is fully out yet. I don't think it is. By all accounts, it sounds like he's healthy, managed to get away without any injuries. I heard he was at the golf course the next day. I don't know how true that was. That might be a false report. But I think, look, I don't think you should be. Well, there's two sides to this. I think he's not obviously being that responsible, getting behind the wheel when he's in a state where he shouldn't be doing that. But equally, we've got to appreciate this guy's got to be going through some stuff because it's not the first time, it's not the second time. So I'm conscious that we never really know with anyone really what's going on behind closed doors, what their mental state is like, what they're dealing with away from the golf course. You know, we see these players like Scotty and Rory and Tiger, and we just assume that they're superhuman both on and off the course, and it's not always the case. So I'm a little bit sympathetic to the fact that he's going through some stuff, but equally, you can't be getting behind the wheel when you're in that state and putting yourself at risk, and I guess more importantly, other people. But I think that the good thing, the positive thing, is he's not injured and the other person wasn't injured, I don't think.
Mm. Again, how can you? I think you've put that very well. He's a icon of global sport. I think that is something that none of us can understand because there's very few that achieve it, and you could list them, and Tyson, Ronaldo, Messi, just to stick on boxing and soccer, but you can keep going, Shane Warne, the cricket player, tragic what happened to him too. And I think that there comes a point that you have to advise within the group and get him in a place that he's just an icon. And he's got to go into the next era of his life. He has to obviously be fulfilled. But these situations, we can't, the pain the guy must be in. And obviously in the US, the painkillers and stuff it's regulated a little differently to Europe and the UK for sure. That's a world that I'm not familiar with myself, but these things are, you get into this situation, the doctors advise you to take it and you take it. I'm sure they get to a point where if you're going around in that much pain, then you become tolerant to it. And obviously that has an impact. Again, we don't know from the information out there if that was what caused the accident. But yeah, it's a worry. And he's in a place where he could do anything he wants with the game. I mean, the things he does with his foundation are fantastic. But he's got to find fulfillment. And I think that that's got to come from within. None of us know what that can be. The limited time I've had around him, there's a great side to the guy, really is. As you dive deeper and you get some of the information out of him, there's so much to learn. But he's a golfing treasure, and he's a sporting treasure, and he's a generational treasure. And I think that there are guys out there that like Nicholas, Pete Sampras, Agassi, all these across any sport, and maybe there's got to be some advice that comes, just like I'm talking about how we get advice from better players, people that can relate to that, because it's not something that either of us are as legendary as we are in our own lives. It's not something that we can relate to or even begin to help with. And yeah, you just hate to see it. And I think that people now with social media just diving on like, oh, play the Masters and do this and the game. Like, hang on a minute, there's more to this. The guy's given us all so much. And look, I'm devastated. I didn't see Nicholas and I didn't see Hogan and I didn't really see Palmer in his prime. But you can understand it. I got the back end of Seve and I got most of Faldo, and it's like there are all these legends that mean so much to us. Maybe we just got to preserve Tiger and let him just help him. And I think social media wise, let's not push for. Would I like to see Tiger Woods play the Masters? Of course I would. But on the same note, if it's not right, and the public have got to just chill on that and just maybe accept that there's a lot going on that none of us understand. And again, we were pumped last week when we fell victim to it, and we were a small sort of group, but TGL, we wanted to know how he'd performed. We wanted to know what he'd done. And I think maybe this infatuation with him, we've all just got to be a bit like more respectful with it, potentially, because there's a lot more at stake here. And he's got a family. He's got great people around him. He's got his kids who are at a great time in their lives, I expect. Haven't got there yet. So again, I can't even talk about that. But he's an idol to all of us. And we've got to just help a little bit and maybe have a little bit more understanding of a situation that none of us can perhaps understand.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm at with it, because we tried to follow a little bit of TGL last week, and it was the final, so it was a crescendo of season 2, but the ratings apparently were crazy partly because he played. Yeah, it's the final, that's going to bump him up a little bit, but he still moves the needle. For anyone who's younger, maybe 18, 19, 20, maybe not knows the Tiger story, I think it was 2015 when the first kind of news story broke with the kind of breakup from Erin and the story where she chased him out the house. I think it was 2015. So he jumped in his car. She found out that he'd been obviously, doing stuff that he shouldn't have been as a married man. And when they arrested him, he was under the influence then, not from alcohol, but from drugs, painkillers, that kind of stuff. That was 2015. So he was in a car, crashed it because he was under the influence. This isn't a new thing. And obviously he had the crash maybe 2-3 years ago where he kind of could have lost his leg. So this isn't a new thing. and I'm in the same camp as you. You know, it's really easy to look at it from afar and just point the finger and go, "What on earth are you doing? You're reckless." But we have to have a little bit more respect than that. And there's a guy I listen to, does some really good podcasts actually, and he talks very much about trade-offs. And he basically kind of pushes the idea that anything you do in your life, there's a trade-off, there's a price to pay. And he's been the best golfer of our generation. Some would argue the best golfer of all time. He's given basically me a career in golf that potentially wouldn't have been there. He's given lots of other people a career in golf that wouldn't have been there. He's been hero. He's been entertaining for a lot of golfers. Is this part of the trade-off for being that great, that, you know, the stuff off the course has to suffer a little bit? We just don't know. But yeah, I just hope he gets, like you said, into a place where he's at peace with his life and he's happy and he's got some fulfillment, whether that's playing seniors tour, whether that's just playing with his son. But I just want to see a healthy Tiger Woods. I want to see him on my telly, but that could well be just in the booth as opposed to actually playing. So I would like to see him at the Masters, but equally, I think it's got to the point now where I'm kind of not that bothered anymore. I don't think he's going to compete. So part of me doesn't want to see him play 2 rounds and miss the cut and look difficult on the golf course and look like he's struggling to walk. But we'll see. We'll see, you know, whether more information comes out. He's obviously a very private man. The sort of the finer details might never come out. But yeah, I just think I guess for myself, I just wish him all the best. And I just hope he's got support if he needs it.
I've never seen a player dominate in any sport like that. The closest you get is like a Federer and Nadal, but tennis, it seems to happen. But the dominance, I mean, it must have been what Nicholas was like. It must have been. It was insane. So yeah, I echo everything you're saying. It's a tough one to close the pod on, but it's the truth of the situation is that we've maybe got to put people before the game here. And obviously we both wish him well. And I think that the line there that you wouldn't have a career in golf, I think that there's many of us who wouldn't. And I'd put myself in that. It just changed it. It's the closest thing I think that we'll ever see to a Nicholas situation. I'd love for the generations coming after me to have someone that dominates like that. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure you're going to get it. It was insane. Like a quick story to close. We were at an Open Championship and he came on the range and the whole range changed. The players, the kids, the crowd, the tour reps, the coaches. One player, just to hit a few balls, changed everything. And he put his golf balls down next to the tailor-made stairs because the trucks on the range at the Open are very close. And obviously Open Championship turf is links turf. It just has a different sound when you hit a long iron. And it was into a slight breeze and I was stood on top of these steps and these long irons were coming off. The ground was like, you could hear the ground. If you were standing close, you would feel it. And the ball flight whizzing past my ear on these steps with the spin on it was just piercing. No, I've never... Rory's close, but it's still not the same. It's a different launch window and just that golf ball. It's a different ball. Like everything he did, it was unreal. And just the way he carried himself. And obviously it was just when he got into those like tighter fitting Nike clothing and his chest looked big and he looked strong. And it just, the way the man, like Faldo was close to carrying himself like that, but Tiger did it in a different way. So yeah, wish him well. And I think, as we all do, let's see where it goes. But on the dope stroke, I think next week we got potential to have McD back. He's having a little vacation at the moment, so good for him. And I
think next week we need to do some splash sports stuff. We need to do some picks, give people some insights as to who might be good to put some money on.
Yeah, I mean, that's Masters. We're going to be starting our amp up for Augusta. We shall have a betting pool in there with Splash Sports. Those guys have been great with us before. Very successful last year. We'll get behind it this year. Obviously, myself, Bubsy, and Dazzler will give you our picks and who we think. I'm sticking with Ludwig. I think I mentioned my other major champions in that podcast. We might have to dig up. I know Xander was one of them. And we will see what Augusta brings. I think it's going to be a great tournament. We're properly on the peak now, getting towards summer, and we're all here for it. So join us next week and get along with it too.